I'm going to talk a little bit about a drill that I call 5-4-3. Also sometimes call it 3-2-1 when I'm first introducing it without the footwork. This is a good drill to do pretty much anytime, any place. It doesn't take very much space, and you can use the higher priced gear if you've got a body opponent bag or just a regular bag, but you can also use a pole, you can use a door. Obviously, just don't hit hard solid items as hard as you can hit these items. The goal of the 5-4-3 drill is to get fluid in a whole host of various things so that in an encounter, in the dojo when we pair up and do things, you don't pause, stop, essentially doing a teme on yourself. In a real encounter, if you pause, Taiko would say, that's where you fail, that's where you can die. So we don't want to pause. We want to be able to go fluidly through a whole series of things. And so what we're going to do is, after you get all the way through this exercise, you'll be doing 5 techniques, or 5 moves, 4 moves, and then 3 moves. So what I mean by that is I'm going to make 2 hand contacts with whatever device I'm using and 2 footwork contacts and then a 5th contact for my 5. So what that means is straight arm then bent. I'm going to pin and float. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 and follow up with a 5th. So my 5 is pin float. I'm ready. I've done 5 impacts, 3 on bob and 2 on the floor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide, so that requires 2 foot movements. At the same time, I'm going to continue clockwise. So I'm here. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got my 4 out of the way. And then I'm just going to pivot and drop my heels at the same time I throw in a single punch. So I'm here and I'm going to continue clockwise, which would normally go outside the range of my opponent, but because I turn my heels, that single ends up somewhere on whatever item I'm practicing with. So here is just a regular bag. I'm going to do, there's 5, 4, 3. So 5, 4, 3. To get started with this, you want to just think 3, 2, 1. So I can start in a natural stance and think 1, 2, 3. Continue clockwise in this instance. There's my 2. And then I'm going to continue clockwise and do 1. So it's 3, 2, 1. Of course, we don't want those pauses in there. Do not want the pauses. So if I just did this motion without pauses, it's 6. 6 hand motions. All right. So again, 3 top, 2 bottom. 2 top, 2 bottom, 1 top, 2 bottom. So here's 3, 2, 1 if you're just counting those hands. 3, 2, 1. If you count full body, it's 5, 4, 3. 5, 4, 3. Correct? So, again, my footwork, I pin and float in preparation, and I just left heel, right heel lands. And so with a little bit of body motion, I get a little bit of a shuffle back behind to my left, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So pin and float, that part doesn't count, that's just your preparatory. You're going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 5, 4, 3. 5, 4, 3 drill. If we just do it in the air without any footwork, it kind of feels funny. You're doing 6 moves, so it's 3, 2, 1. That is just a core basic way to do it. You can do it in the air, but I commonly will use a metal pole in the dojo, doorway, whatever I have around me. I could even use countertops, touch the counter, touch the kitchen cabinet, whatever I have. You don't have to pile drive it and be as hard as possible when you don't have a nice soft surface to impact. Variants. Once you get fluid with that particular drill, now you want to change it up a little bit. Taika would always wait until usually 1 or 2 people in the dojo got kind of close to getting that drill smooth, and then he would pull the rug out from under you and change it. So there are many different ways that you can do that drill. So I can go 3 up here, or maybe change my angle a little bit so I'm a little bit closer. So I come here, and then my third is a forearm instead of hammer fist or back of the hand, Nahanchi kind of style, or zygomatic and neck at the same time. Any of those motions. So I just change my angles a little bit as practice in this. If I come all the way out here, this is more of a cover because I can't impact my opponent. But then shuffle, and then I'm in close. So it becomes moves from a fluidity drill to a range drill. Now I can also change up what I'm doing. So initially the foot patterns are 2, 2, and 2. And that initial foot pattern was 1, 2, shuffle, pivot. So I essentially pin float, ready for the drill to start. I pivot, drag, step, drag, pivot, pivot. Now, once that's fluid and comfortable, I need to change that drill to expand my training opportunity here. So this time, as an example, I'm going to do my pin and float. I'm going to pivot and drag. Now I'm going to move the pivot, pivot, and then step and drag. So I switch the order of my duples. When that happens, that opens up different range attacks. So I pin and float. I do the top 3 with the bottom 2. There's my 5. But this time I'm going to pivot instead of stepping. So if I pivot, I can go clockwise here, or I can go counterclockwise. So I can change the top as well as the bottom. So right there, just with those 2 changes, I've made 2 new drills. So pin, float. Here I'm going to continue clockwise, but pivot, so there's my double. So that means as I shift, as I step and slide there, I'm going to do a left just because it's what felt natural. Pin, float. Here, there's my 5. I'm going to this time go counterclockwise. And now, as I shuffle in, I'm going to use the right hand. As you can see, this starts getting you fluid. It starts getting you different options based on your range and the decisions you make in this tree. And you want to be able to take this and make it really, really fast and fluid. Some of my students have asked where this drill came from. This is a mixture of some principles and drills that Taika Seiyu Oyata gave us, as well as some of my experience of being a percussionist, a drummer. Initially, when I was learning to play the drum set years and years ago, I would study all these different rudiments and everything, and what they're curtailed of is you're doing patterns, and you're doing numerous variants of patterns. Same kind of principles that we apply in martial arts. You would practice a pattern until you got it, and then you would change it slightly and practice it until you got it, and then change it again. So that's what we're applying here in this 5-4-3 drill. The 5-4-3 pattern originally came from a simple drum pattern that I developed when practicing some double bass skills when practicing the drum set. In practicing that, I came up with this pattern that was 5, 4, and 3. So I would play on a snare drum, I would play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with my 2 bass drums. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. After I got that, that was right, left, right, right, left. For the 5, I would do right, left, right, so reverse the feet. Then I would reverse the hands. Left, right, right, and then left, right, left. So you could come up with all these different patterns, and even you could do some a little bit more difficult patterns like right, left. As these patterns progressed, you would then, just like we're striking different parts of bob or the bag or whatever we're using, I would strike different drums. So I may strike a tom, a higher tom, a low tom, and then 2 feet, or a snare and 2 feet, whatever. And you would make all these different various sounds, creations. Practice those until you get it really smooth, really crisp, and then you would change it. Every time you got good at it, you would change it up. And eventually that pattern basically came out to what I call the 5-4-3 percussive drill, where I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then you would change it up with different toms, cymbals, cowbell, whatever you had to make really interesting sounding things. Here we're not worried about the sound so much, but we're worried about ourselves getting fluid and not pausing in the middle of it. So if I was playing the drums and trying to keep in time with the tune, and I did 5 and then pause and the song kept on going, then I'd be out of time. And you don't want that as a musician. In the martial arts, I don't want to pause, because in that pause I lose that little moment of advantage, I lose that edge, and then my opponent has time to balance, has time to counter, etc.